2nd, slightly different date, but June 2nd meeting of Borough Board. And we're going to jump right in with the start of our agenda. So we'll do a roll call. CB1.
Morning, Tammy Meltzer for CB1.
Thank you. Good morning. CB2.
Janine Kiley here for CB2.
Thank you. Good morning. CB3.
Paul Rangel, Chair CB3.
Thank you. CB4. I think there's Jeffrey still logging in. CB5. CB6.
Good morning. This is Sandra Sherrod for CB6.
Thank you. CB7.
Roberta Seymour for CB7.
Thank you. CB8.
Russell Squire for CB8.
Great. Thank you. CB9. I believe Barry's still coming in. CB10.
Good morning, everyone. Cicely Harris for CB10.
Good morning, Cicely. CB11.
Good morning, all. Xavier Santiago, CB11.
Great. And CB12. Okay. We are going to go straight in. Excuse me, before we jump around here. Do I have next on the agenda is the adoption of the June 2nd Borough Board meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? Great. The agenda passes. Next, we'll be moving to approve the May 19th Borough Board meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Pardon me.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, we're going to move into our public hearing. Today, we're having a public hearing on a resolution setting forth the procedures for hybrid meetings for subsequent Borough Board meetings for the next 2 years. Eric, do we have anybody? If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on this, please raise your hand, and Eric can promote you in our system in order to participate. Eric, can you just confirm if we have anybody from the public who would like to speak on?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. Any board members or anybody who is currently a panelist would like to speak on the resolution? Okay, this is easy. Then what I'll say just is that as a reminder for everybody, Borough Board falls under the same rules of open meetings, just like community boards do. So in order to move forward and have the option of a hybrid model, which we've discussed at length and we'll certainly discuss more, I'm sure in this meeting and in coming meetings, we also wanted to hold a public hearing and pass a resolution. The resolution was distributed to you, but I will just review it briefly. It would again create allow for Borough Board to meet in a hybrid model in all accordance with the open meeting law regulations by New York State. For the next 2 years, it would only be until July of 2024, at which case we'd reassess. And like I said, we'd be going forward as well next meeting with, talking about bylaws changes. Yeah, Russell.
Call the question.
Okay, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So for this, we're going to just do a roll call vote, just to make sure. And if we are somehow missing quorum, which we may be close, then we'll leave it open for others to join us. I know that they're on their way.
Do you need our votes also?
Yes,
from the
yes,
City
please.
Council?
Yes, please.
right.
So I'll go through again. I'll just read the resolve that Manhattan Borough Board will move to hold hybrid meetings consistent with the rules and regulations outlined by the New York State Open Meetings Law until July 1st, 2024. And with that, we'll go CB1.
Yes.
CB2?
Yes.
Thank you. CB3?
Yes.
CB6, we have a
Yes.
representative here. CB7?
I don't know if I'm allowed to vote.
No, unfortunately, but thank you for being here as well. CB8?
Yes.
Thank you. CB10?
Yes.
CB11?
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll go to our council members. We'll go first to Councilmember Gail Brewer.
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Keith Powers? Yes,
Aye,
thank you. Councilmember Eric Botcher?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And then I think Councilmember Menon is going to be joining us shortly. And, excuse me, Councilmember Jordan.
Yes. Aye.
Thank you. And so we'll keep that open just in case other council members are able to join us, and I see a couple are in the way, but thank you. This concludes our public hearing and the vote on we'll keep the vote open, but we'll move straight because I know that council members have a stated meeting today. So we'll move to give them some time to give a report. Councilmember Brewer? Did she? Oh, we lost her. So we'll go to Councilmember Powers because I see his screen's up.
What are we voting on now?
Not voting, just giving you an opportunity for a report.
Oh, hi, everyone. I have to jump to chair a hearing in a second, but I just want to say hello to everyone. And we are in the middle of budget season right now in the city council. So very actively negotiating a budget with the council and the mayor right now. Obviously, we have a lot of priorities here in the city right now, but for me, getting some of our city agency funding like sanitation and other funding streams here that have been cut over the last few years back to where they belong, because we've gotten so many complaints in the last couple of years about the sort of the general cleanliness and quality of life here in the city. But hopefully we'll be able to land a budget in the next few weeks, and then we all can go enjoy our summers a little bit. Otherwise, just doing a lot of legislation these days. We are going to be reintroducing our legislation on the commercial rent tax, which affects Manhattan deeply. I see Gail Brewer here as well, who I know has been working on that with us for a long time, and the borough president, I should say, as well. So that will help small businesses here in Manhattan a whole lot. We also introduced a bill a few weeks ago to help our restaurants with the mayor, actually, by suspending a particular tax that hits them on their liquor licenses, which just also seems sort of random and unfair. So doing a lot right now, but I'll spare you the whole update, but just to say nice to see everyone. And I have to chair a rules committee for, I believe, a Mark Levine appointee in a second. So I will do my best to be nice. But anyway, nice to see everyone, and hope you all have a great summer if I don't see you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Powers. Just to check for Councilmember Abreu or Councilmember Marte, are either of the principals here to cast a vote for the resolution? Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Councilmember Marte, this was a vote on whether or not Borough Board should be adopting a hybrid model. Would you like to cast your vote?
Yeah, I vote aye.
Thank you. And it says Amber Moore here, so I assume that's Amber and not Councilmember Abreu, but thank you, Councilmember Marte, for your vote. We're just going through elected official reports, so we'll get to you shortly. We'll go next, I believe, to, unless Gail Brewer is here, we'll go to Councilmember Bob Botcher.
Good morning. I apologize for not turning my camera on. I wasn't expecting to give a report, but very happy to. Like Councilmember Powers said, the budget is currently being negotiated, and my top priority in the budget is getting sanitation funding restored. As you know, sanitation funding was slashed in 2020, corner basket pickup, rat mitigation, and many other things, and it was only partially restored last year. My colleagues and I are pushing for a restoration of that funding to restore corner basket pickup. We're asking for a $4.9 million increase in rat mitigation, a very high priority. With regard to rat mitigation, I introduced legislation last week that would require property owners in rat mitigation zones, when they're undergoing significant construction, to certify that they've hired a pest management specialist. I'm also, as you probably know, being very vocal on the issue of mental health. And I published, the Daily News published an op-ed of mine a couple of days ago about something that's called the IMD rule in the Social Security Act of 1965 that created Medicaid and Medicare. Within that legislation was embedded a rule that prohibited psychiatric hospitals with more than 16 beds from getting Medicaid funding. And that contributed to the deinstitutionalization and the closure of the vast majority of inpatient mental health facilities in the United States, many of which were very bad, but now it's preventing the creation of new facilities, including one called Hope House, which will be an alternative to incarceration for people with mental illness. So Carolyn Maloney introduced legislation to repeal this IMD rule. It's called the Michelle Go Act, something that we should all get behind. I expect to be hearing a lot more about that. Finally, I'll just mention two other things. My push on loud vehicles. I know my fellow council members can attest that we're all getting a lot of calls about loud vehicles, people who modify their mufflers and other things. Very disruptive and a big problem. I introduced legislation that would increase the fines, but it's really about enforcement. And the Department of Environmental Protection has a pilot going on with automatic sound detectors co-located with speed cameras and red light cameras that could automatically issue tickets. And I'm eagerly awaiting the results of that pilot. I think we should all work together, if that pilot's successful, to get some of these placed, because ultimately enforcement is the key. Finally, I'll mention the pooper scooper push that I've been making. And we got the Department of Sanitation to agree to do an enforcement blitz on that. Turns out that 2 years ago, the Department of Sanitation issued 0 tickets in the whole year. Last year, citywide, 0 tickets. I'm told that since our push started, the tickets have resumed for pooper scooper infractions. So keep your eye out on those numbers. It's just a common sense thing that we should be enforcing. Just a few of the things that I'm working on. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, Councilmember. I see that our Borough President has joined us. So Borough President, thank you. And thank you for joining us. We have left the vote open for the decision on a hybrid model for the next 2 years for Borough Board, going to July 1st, 2024. How would you like to vote?
Thank you so much, Tricia. Good morning, everybody, and I will certainly be voting aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have next, Councilmember Jordan. I just wanted to open the floor. Would you like to give us a report?
Hi, and I'm sorry to be off screen. I actually am not feeling 100%, but I am happy to be here. So in terms of budget, I'll echo what a lot of my colleagues have said. I too am on the sanitation committee, trying to see if we can get that funding restored for sanitation is high on my list as well. One of the other things that I've been advocating for too is to move, looking at a budget line for the ANCP program, moving $200 million from ANCP into the TIL program. That's something that is a promise. We promise these residents who are in TIL housing, rehabs, and and we have not stuck to that promise as a government. So one of the things I think we have an opportunity to do, especially with a newer and more progressive council, is to fund, or I should say refund, the TIL program. So that's one of the things on my list as well. Legislatively, I'm excited to introduce a bill literally today at this stated around veterans. You know, we just passed Memorial Day. This is going to increase housing benefits for veterans. I'm a proud member of the Veterans Committee as well. So I'm excited to say that that's coming down the pike. I also, my team, and some community members, we've been working hard on this Housing First legislation, a prime sponsor on a piece of legislation that would actually be a tweak to our charter to shift us from a shelter city, a right to shelter city, to a right to housing city, and just make some tweaks where our focus could be more on implementing those permanent housing solutions. So that's some of what we have going on. We also do a variety of great task forces. So if there's anyone in the community who's interested in different things, among the task forces, the most popular ones so far have been the Housing Task Force, which I mentioned. We also have a vendors task force that's been meeting pretty regularly. It has about 25 folks. And an environmental justice task force, which started up 2 weeks ago. That's working on a couple different things, but one of the things we're focusing on is a green to greener initiative, where I'm using some capital funding to work to make some of our parks towards carbon zero. It's probably going to really start kind of hyper local, but trying to see if we could do some cool and creative things with the trash compactors and with solar lighting, and some things like that. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. I see that we've been joined by Councilmember Julie Menon. Councilmember, just to let you know, we've kept the vote open for the resolution on whether Borough Board can operate under a hybrid model. If you're on and would love to get your vote down on whether or not you support the resolution. You're muted, but you're smiling, so I'm guessing you're supporting.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Yes, I support it. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're gonna just move on. I have Councilmember Marte and then Councilmember Menon to give us final report. So we'll move it over to Councilmember Marte.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Good morning. Good to see you all. Just a quick update, you know, as everyone's been mentioning, we're in the heart of the budget season. And so we've been making sure that not only our specific districts get the funding and nonprofits get the funding that they need, but as chair of the Manhattan delegation, we were also making sure that we reach out to every single council member in Manhattan to make sure that their voices are heard when it comes to the budget for the Manhattan delegation and also some citywide initiatives. And we've been keeping it fairly transparent and democratic, making sure that everyone has a vote and no one feels left out. As we've seen in the past, a lot of these processes happen just with a few people, but we want to make sure that no matter where you live, uptown, midtown, or downtown, you have a voice on how our delegation funding is allocated. On a local level, I guess more on the legislative front, we've been super excited. We introduced a bill to end the 24-hour workday for home attendants. It's crazy that in 2022, home attendants are still working 24-hour shifts. So we introduced a bill about 3 weeks ago. We had a rally yesterday where we had almost 200 home attendants come out and say that we have to end this practice. Currently, we have 22 co-sponsors, and I think after today, we'll be able to have a majority of the council supporting this bill. Two other legislations that I introduced recently and I'm going to introduce today is making sure that Department of Building and Department of Sanitation, whenever you get a violation or whenever you issue a complaint, that they give you a photo recognition that the job is done. You know, we get a lot of complaints in our office about, DOB sent an inspector, but the problem is still there. or we get tagged on Twitter messages saying, oh, there's still trash, even though we called Department of Sanitation 3 hours ago. And so this would just help with accountability, make things a little bit more transparent. And it's something my community has eagerly wanted for a long time. So I'll be happy to continue the push on both of those fronts. And then more local issues. I know Tammy, Janine, and Paul have been super helpful on all these fronts. We sent a letter regarding the 125, 124 mega jail in Chinatown to the state and city environmental protection agencies and DEC to make sure that there's an independent monitor. It's a highly contaminated site. I think for all measures, it could be close to a brownfield program, and I think it needs the protection, the accountability, and the remediation work that we put on those other sites. I know Mark Levine signed on to that, so I really thank him and like his leadership on the borough president front. And on 250 water, the same. Kids in the past 2 weeks had to listen to monstrous sounds of drilling, vibration. There's 2 schools next to this seaport site, the Blue School and Peg Slip Public School. And so we've been working with colleagues to make sure that our state agencies, our city agencies respond to what's going to be a really frustrating process if no one acts. And then on the local front, we've just been working with NYCHA tenant leaders to make sure that their voices are heard. On the state level, they're trying to pass the NYCHA public trust. All my tenant leaders in District 1 are against this plan. I know a little bit further up from me in Harvey Epstein's district, all the public housing tenant leaders in his district also are against this plan right now. They're in the 11th hour with the state budget, and we're doing a full-on blitz to make sure that it doesn't pass and that communities are heard, and more importantly, that we actually create a timeline where we could fully fund NYCHA. Thank you all so much for being up this early this morning, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Councilmember. Finally, we'll go to Councilmember Menon for a report. Oh, let me just try to, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, I'm just having a problem with the mute button. Okay, I'll be super brief. I am introducing 5 bills today at the stated meeting on universal childcare. Very excited about this. This is a soup to nuts comprehensive package of bills to finally implement universal childcare. I'm doing a rally. Everyone is invited, and I know I've got a lot of people coming. And for anyone who's interested, please come by. It's at 11 a.m. at City Hall Park, and we're going to be rallying for universal childcare. I'm also introducing 2 bills today in light of Roe v. Wade, so I'll be talking about those as well at the stated. And in terms of issues in the district, we've been incredibly busy working on a number of different fronts. I mentioned what a project we had been working on for free broadband in NYCHA. We are still signing up residents in our NYCHA development, so that has been progressing really well. And we've been working on a number of things with open space in our district, and specifically with Carlshurts Park. We've had a number of different issues surrounding the park in terms of paving, security cameras, and other things. But I'm going to leave my comments there because I apologize. I have to hop into something else, but just wanted to come on to make sure to vote and give a brief update on universal childcare.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And with that, unless I see any other council members, I would love to move the agenda along. We will still keep the roll open until the end of the meeting, just in case anybody comes on to vote. But I will note that we've achieved quorum and have achieved enough votes to have the resolution pass. But we'll move on right now to our report from our Manhattan Borough President.
Thank you, Tricia. Good morning again, everybody. Great report. It's really wonderful to hear the latest from all of you. We are so excited about the culmination of the community board reappointment process. It was almost an unprecedented level of applications. We had 900 applicants for 300 spots, and it was very competitive, and that allowed us to ultimately select really just the best of the best. We have also achieved remarkable diversity amongst our new appointees. We have 91 new people amongst them. It's 70% people of color. We have an unprecedented number of young people. Among those under 30, it's 26%. And we even have the most ever number of teenagers. We have 6 that are under 20. So and diversity along just about every way you could possibly measure it. We have tenants strongly represented. We have people who don't primarily get around by cars strongly represented, and many more perspectives that we want to hear from. We want to hear from all sides of every issue, and I think we've achieved that in our appointments. We are focused intensely on the open meetings law, as we've been talking about today. I'm not sure if Tricia has told you this, but we've obtained some additional clarity, which I think will be helpful to many of you, that you are going to be allowed to require masking at in-person events that you sponsor. The question of vaccination screening is a little more complicated. The current guidance that we have, that we're not 100% solid on, but pretty close, is that while you cannot require vaccination, you can book at venues in which the venue does require vaccination. So it's a subtle nuance there, but and we're still looking to lock in on that one. Minor point, but you also as a board can require spacing, 3 feet spacing as well if you so choose. We've got a little more time on all this because the mayor extended the emergency order for the city to June 27th. So most of you will be able to complete your committee meetings for the month of June without having to deal with the new hybrid rules. But of course, then it's a new world. And as I've said to you many times, we understand that there are going to be significant logistical challenges in pulling off a hybrid meeting. To make it so that everyone, whether they're in person or online, can feel like they are full participants, that they can see everybody, hear everybody themselves, be seen and heard. It is so much more difficult than doing an online only meeting. And so we're going to do everything we can to support you to get the resources, the equipment, the training, everything to do that well. And we're continuing really to focus on getting you the legal guidance that you need. I know what a challenge this is for all of you. We're also rolling out a really robust series of trainings for board members beyond what's been offered in the past, and it falls into 3 categories. It's equal employment opportunity, EEO. It is the conflict of interest board, COIB, and also it's anti-bias training. And we're going to require all board members to complete all 3 of those trainings every year, and we're going to offer, I believe, 2 rounds of each, so there'll be options out of our office. We're really excited about this. This is kind of part of our broader effort to ensure the highest possible functioning of boards. We want robust debates, even contentious and intense and passionate debate on every issue, because the stakes are high and the issues are complicated. But we don't want people to feel like this is a hostile environment where there's not a minimum standard of respect for fellow board members and for the public. And so these trainings are one of our efforts to ensure that everyone feels respected and included, no matter who they are, no matter what their background is. So stay tuned for that. On one policy substantive front, we have been working really hard on cannabis, this entire new industry, which is being launched here in New York State. We want Manhattanites to have a real role in designing and shaping this new industry, and we want them to have a role as entrepreneurs in benefiting from the economic opportunities here. And we've now sponsored or co-sponsored 3 forums on this. We did one downtown with boards 1, 2, 3, and 4, which was spectacular. We did one with CB10 and a bunch of other partners in Central Harlem a month or 2 ago. And just a week or 2 ago, we did one in West Harlem with CB9. And I think there were one or two other boards sponsoring that as well. Forgive me. The next one we're doing is going to be in CB12, which will be special. It's going to be very focused bilingual English, Spanish, making sure that the Spanish speaking communities are full participants. The theme here is that we understand that starting a cannabis business is going to be extremely difficult, that there is a danger that this defaults to large corporations dominating this space. New York State did a lot in the design of the law to avoid that, but even despite their best efforts, it's going to be challenging. The capital requirements, the complexity of navigating regulations, it's going to require a lot of support for entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that the very communities that have been brutalized by the so-called war on drugs, which are predominantly Black and brown communities, now can benefit from economic opportunity of this new industry. And so our offices, we're really trying to be a hub of support, of technical assistance, of convening for this important new sector, and want to partner with the boards. I think the boards have a huge role. Many of you have stepped up to lead ahead of the curve. It's really been inspiring, and we want to be your partner in that effort. Finally, we have an amazing guest speaker, my friend Emily Maxwell, who works at the Trust for Public Land, but is, the Nature Conservancy, who is leading the Urban Forest for All initiative, and has been a great partner for us on our exciting effort to have New York City plant 1 million more trees. She's put together an amazing coalition that has set an ambitious goal of expanding, of having 30% of the surface area of New York City covered by tree canopy, which would have huge climate change benefits, resiliency benefits, quality of life benefits, and so much more. I really think that trees touch almost every one of the challenges that we face, climate and environment, but also mental health, even physical health because of air quality. And it is very much an equity issue because low-income communities of color tend to have fewer trees. And one stark impact of that is on hot days in the middle of a heat wave. It's a lot hotter in a neighborhood like East Harlem because there's fewer trees. And so, equity is a major focus of our office, something I know all of you care about. Trees will help us advance on that front as well. So I'm really grateful that Emily is here to join us today as a guest speaker. Thank you everybody for coming out this morning, and I'm going to pass it back to you, Tricia.
Thank you so much, Borough President. Before we get to Emily, and we're looking for, and thank you again for being here, I just want to go to our Councilmember Borough, who I believe has joined us. Councilmember, I wanted to make sure we got your vote down for the resolution.
Yeah, vote aye. Thank you, Tricia.
And actually, Councilmember, if you have a minute, we'd love to give you a minute to give us a report. I know that you're going into a stated meeting, but if you have a moment and would like to share a few words, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So Friday, tomorrow, we have a gun violence prevention march starting at 3 p.m. at 153rd Street in Amsterdam. And is going to walk down Amsterdam to Brother Her Sister Soul on 143rd in Amsterdam to end in a very symbolic and a powerful way. Last Thursday, the council passed a package of home rules that I sponsored that deters trucks from parking on residential streets overnight, 24-hour speed cameras. Today, we'll be introducing legislation to combat the rodent epidemic, a bill I actually picked up from Mark Levine, which is rat mitigation zones we're excited about. Manhattan delegation also just nominated new appointees to the CCRB, Department for the Aging Advisory Council, Health and Hospital Board of Directors, Taxi and Limousine Commission. I'm excited that Sean Farrow from West Harlem was selected by Manhattan delegation. He is a public defender. He is a member of Community Board 9, someone that we know pretty well in West Harlem, including Mark. And so we're excited to be voting for him, I believe today during the stated. We had a shredding event recently. We partnered with CUNY Law to offer immigration assistance and joined for Manhattanville's Community Day. The renaming of Coogan's with Carmen was a great event. And we also have the Congressman's Coffee on Your Corner that we're continuing to do. So we'll be continue to keep you posted. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll move on to our guest speaker today, Emily Maxwell from the Nature Conservancy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Borough President Levine, for your very generous words and for all of your leadership around our urban forest, for your launching of the Million More Trees initiative. So I have to say, you all have an incredible advocate for your urban forest here in Borough President Levine's office, and certainly with Deputy Borough President Aya Keefe's leadership as well. Also, congratulations to all of you who were selected. It was great to hear what a competitive process this is, and I'm really excited to learn about all of your leadership. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, may I share my screen to give a bit of a slide deck? I'd love to share some images. Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. You should be able to do so momentarily.
I am here. So thank you.
Be able to.
Let me just go ahead and start my slideshow. Oops. And then we should be able to get started. Here we go. Sorry, always fun technical issues. So hopefully you are able to see my screen. Is that the case? Okay, terrific. So I'm Emily Noble Maxwell. I'm the city's program director at the Nature Conservancy in New York. Just brief background, the Nature Conservancy is a global conservation organization. We work in 72 countries. We have 35,000 members in New York City, and our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. We launched our cities program about 9 years ago. I've been leading it since its inception, and we largely launched it because of the significant already happening and worsening impacts of climate change, including extreme heat and flooding. And you all may know that extreme heat is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. So it's a big deal. One of the solutions, and we also, for those of you who are interested, and we can talk about this another time, we have a big practice on green roofs as well, but one of the major solutions to many of the environmental and social issues that we face as New York City is our urban forest. And currently our urban forest includes over 7 million trees and the physical and social infrastructure that supports them. I'm going to talk for about 8 or 10 minutes, and then we're going to get into questions. I'm going to give you more information than you can probably use right now, and we can go and kind of explore any of it. But our urban forest offers us tremendous benefits. It helps with air pollution. It helps to mitigate climate change by absorbing and storing carbon. It decreases both surface and air temperature, which is critical in the face of extreme heat. It has physical and mental health benefits. It reduces stress, lowers our blood pressure, and relaxes us. When we engage with our urban forest in neighborhoods, it can be something that helps increase the cohesion of our communities, which also during disasters, community cohesion is one of the main ways we can actually help each other thrive and survive in the face of weather-related disasters, which unfortunately are increasing. Having trees can encourage both kids and adults to spend more time outside, engaging in physical activity. Kids who see trees outside of their school windows do better on tests. Patients recover better. It can also help to reduce inland localized flooding. And it, of course, helps with wildlife and habitat as well. I want to say that this is a lot of information. The takeaway I want you to have is that about 53% of our tree canopy, and the canopy is just that top portion of the tree that shades our streets, about 53% is under the jurisdiction of New York City Parks. The other 47% is other city agencies, state and federal agencies, and about 36% is actually on private property. So when we talk about trees, we're talking about engaging everyone. So I want to just call your attention to some local dynamics. Our different boroughs have very different canopy cover. All of this is as of 2017. That's only because it's the most recent data. As soon as there's more data, we'll update this. But Manhattan is kind of right in the middle, right? So Brooklyn and Queens are lower. Manhattan is just about at the citywide average at about 21.38%. The citywide average is about 22%. And the Bronx and Staten Island have more. But the story isn't only about what we have now, it's also about change. So where you see blue on these maps, we're seeing some growth in our canopy, which is a great sign, even though we need more. Where you see yellow, orange, and red, we're seeing loss. And loss happens for a lot of reasons. And I wanted to drill in because you all are community board leaders and council members. And I want to make sure that you get a sense of what's happening in your own community. So as you see, many parts of lower Manhattan have much lower cover. Obviously, Central Park, that big block of green in the middle, has higher cover. And from 2010 to 2017, Upper Manhattan was actually kind of growing in canopy, whereas Central Park and some of the districts just south of it lost canopy. And that was largely related to storm events and some development. So why this matters is that where we see our most heat vulnerable communities, and Borough President Levine did mention, for example, East Harlem, right? So parts of Upper Manhattan that include like Washington Heights and East Harlem, they face higher heat vulnerability. That means they see more illness and death when we have extreme heat, and extreme heat is projected to increase 3 to 5-fold by 2080. So the impacts of it, the illness and death, is also projected to increase. Where we have more tree canopy cover, we tend to have less heat vulnerability. And this correlates directly to low-income folks and Black and brown people. So where we have more Black and brown people, where we have lower income folks, we tend to see less tree canopy and higher heat vulnerability. In terms of caring for our canopy, it's a really complex landscape. Some of it is government agencies, some of it is private institutions. And this is just a swath of the lower part of southeast corner of Central Park, just to give you a sense that there are all of these different actors that care for our urban forest, and in ways that's wonderful and incredible, and in ways it makes it really hard to manage because we don't necessarily have consistent funding, nor do we have consistent management practices. I'm going to briefly touch on funding. So as we all probably are aware, our Parks Department receives well less historically of the total city budget. That's something a lot of us are working on to improve. And when we drill down further, our forest budget is less than 0.04% of the total budget. To give you a sense, the urban forest as it stands is valued at $5.7 billion. That's a huge asset. It also provides hundreds of millions of dollars of services each year. Not only is the funding low, it's insecure. So when I say that, it means a lot of this funding isn't baseline. So it's subject to annual negotiations. And as you see over time, there have been times in the past when we've spent a lot more. The top line is capital, the bottom line is expense or operations. And we really need to invest more in this asset. And that's just on the public side. So our trees are facing the challenges of climate change, pests and pathogens, disparate management. A lot of them are unprotected and can be removed. And there's a lack of planning, sufficient funding, and cohesive vision. So our program does 3 major things. We produce great science, and I'll put this link in the chat as soon as I'm done speaking. We produced recently the State of the Urban Forest in New York City, a comprehensive look at what's happening. All of the data on each of your individual districts is available in there. So you can look at that drilled down data. We do partnerships for stewardship, and we convene over 50 organizations who together wrote the Urban Forest Agenda, which is an agenda for how we can actually properly care for and invest in this asset. And we launched Forest for All NYC, a coalition dedicated to a healthy, biodiverse, robust, accessible, I know these are a lot of words, and resilient urban forest, importantly, justly and equitably delivers its benefits to all New York City residents. It is a diverse and inclusive coalition. I don't expect you're going to read this whole list. It is on our website. Many organizations from all 5 boroughs, including Manhattan, ranging from, homegrown, like block level groups, all the way up to government leaders and like huge, international organizations like our own, to universities are part of this. Maybe your organization wants to join. Maybe you know an organization. Currently, we take only organizational members. We don't take like individual members. We don't have that capacity. But this is a group that's highly inclusive, and we want you to join too. The drivers of the urban forest agenda are health, adaptation, environmental justice, connecting people, coordination, collaboration, understanding, being a citywide vision, and really improving the state, the physical state of the trees. Our number one goal is expanding the urban forest to 30% canopy cover by 2035. Currently, we're at 22%. In order to actually achieve real benefits for urban heat, we need much more vegetation, at least 33 to 35%. Trees aren't our only vegetation, but we think we can get canopy up to 30% by 2035. It's ambitious, but if we set our minds to it, we can do it. And of course, Borough President Levine's plan to plant 1 million more trees would be a huge advancement in that. We also need to protect the trees we have and better manage those that are already standing. So our agenda, and I won't take you through all the actions, you can hop onto our website and look at it and learn all about it. We have planning, investment, management, and learning. It's a really dynamic group. Any of y'all are welcome to join as organizational members. You can get involved by visiting our website, forestforall.nyc, join the coalition, download and read the Urban Forest Agenda, follow us on social to learn about our latest, support 1 million more trees and endorse the Urban Forest Agenda, speak up for us online. If you really are a data wonk like I am, read the State of the Urban Forest in New York City and educate your own community board and constituents about the urban forest. We're happy to help. My colleague Sergio, this is their email. You're welcome to reach out to them if you have questions. You're also welcome to reach out to me anytime. Again, Emily Maxwell, emaxwell@tnc.org, and this is our website. So I realized that was a crash course in the urban forest, and I welcome any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a visually beautiful presentation.
Thank you. And can we get a copy? I can send a PDF over if it's okay to you, Trisha, and perhaps you can circulate it.
Absolutely. That sounds good.
Thank you.
Tammy had the first question.
Thank you very much and Janine for typing it in the chat. That was going to be question 2, was can we get a copy? I am delighted to see this, Emily. Thank you so very much. I do think that the city is at odds with the agenda in terms of how we are functioning. And I say that simply because when we looked at one of our greatest public assets that the city has decided, open restaurants were more important than trees. And this is a use of a public realm, public space with an opportunity to expand into using tree canopies, art, so many other things, and yet it was a giveaway to one direct industry. I'm not saying that open restaurants necessarily are bad in some locations, but the opportunity to diversify and green the city, to make it a more livable city, to address climate change, to address canopy coverage, to address a positive environment for tourism that stretches throughout from a commercial district to a historic district, seems like we put the cart before the horse. Wouldn't it have made more sense then to take something like what you're talking about and analyze the streets as to where we could potentially green the streets more to benefit the largest public realm before we decided that giving away the street bed and the public realm to drive commercial and finding some balance. So I would hope that you can reach and bridge that, because without that bridge, I don't think we're getting another tree. And I've quite frankly seen tree pits and trees really get damaged in the course of the sidewalk because people are growing back and forth to get to a shed.
Yeah, Tammy, thank you so much for that comment. And actually, it's come up within our coalition. And one thing I would actually encourage all of you to do is if you see a restaurant shed that is in conflict with a tree, and you all know what I'm talking about, it's growing onto the tree, they haven't created space, I encourage you, take a photograph of it, put it on social media, tag Forest for All NYC or tag Urban Forest Agenda, let your call 311. Our belief is that they're going to need to do some reconciliation. So there's room on New York City streets as they stand, even if we didn't do the streets plan, which is underway, and that's going to create more opportunity. There's already room for almost 250,000 new trees. So we don't want that to go away. So I would say, like, make noise about that, let folks know. And yes, like, that is absolutely something that we would encourage folks to speak up about, and we will speak up about. My understanding, I don't think this is like officially like posted yet. My understanding is that Council Member Krishnan, who is the Parks Committee Chair for City Council, will be holding a hearing on the tree canopy, an oversight hearing in the coming months. And I think this is also an issue that should be raised there. And there's always an opportunity to go back and correct and ensure that restaurant sheds are not inadvertently causing harm to the urban forest. I think it's a great topic. Thank you.
And you know that my push is not just that they're not impinging on the current trees,
but that they're not taking up potential space.
Because beyond that is that we should be looking at trees instead of restaurants, opportunities to green in the public space versus restaurants all the way through. And
amen.
That's pushing a little further in, but that is what makes a city livable, as we know. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Janine and then we'll go to Sandro.
Okay. Hi, thank you for your presentation. I look forward to sharing it with our board. I was wondering if you could share it with the New York Times, because they had an article last week which generally said, we need, the poor people are in the city are, have the least amount of access to trees and resources and so forth. But within that article were a lot of inaccurate information. So it'd be great if you could reach out and make sure that the Times starts checking its facts on some of these issues. Also in Community Board 2, we have a number of hollow sidewalks. Are there solutions for adding street trees in those locations?
So to your first point about Ann Barnard's article, I agree that it was great. I also agree that it maybe needed some fact checking. We were in that article, but our coalition was given the wrong name, unfortunately. So we too had asked for a correction. And, I just want to say, I feel like reporters are so challenged right now with the plethora of news coming at them every moment. So yes, absolutely. And we did actually help Anne with a lot of background information, and we will continue to try to socialize this in the media because I think it's a real story, right? And it's a story of the social dynamics of our city as much it is about the environmental dynamics. So thank you for noticing that. And if there's any other specific aspects that you think should be corrected, feel free, Janine, to send me an email and we can try to help socialize that. I want to be mindful of time right now. To your second point, that's a great question about hollow sidewalks. I don't know the specific answer. And that's something I can bring to the Forest for All Coalition, because we do have some forestry experts and some sort of like more technical experts than I'm sort of the policy and data wonk, and we have folks who know a lot about the durable hard goods side. I can certainly bring that question back to them. And then if it's okay, if you could send me an email so I have your direct contact information, try to circle back with you and see what ideas we might be able to generate.
Okay. Can you put your contact information in the chat as well?
Yes, and I'm going to put our website and then I'm going to put my email.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then we'll go to Sandro Sherrod.
Hi, Emily. Thank you so much. That was a fabulous presentation. And it really was a very powerful set of graphics and statistics that I think really paints the story of where we need to be focused. I actually wondered, much like Tammy was mentioning, we often have these kind of micro sites or micro conditions, obviously increasing the canopy and million trees, across as a initiative is great, but it would be helpful if the Nature Conservancy, or if there was a tool that helped identify a target number, perhaps to get to the 2035, so that we can kind of keep that thermometer of how close we are and how effective we have been in our advocacy. because I can see that being very powerful as we discuss land use matters or waterfront matters or just public realm matters as a whole.
Thank you so much, Sandro. I love hearing ideas like this because we have a policy. We only like to build tools that people say they need. A lot of tools get built and sit on shelves.
Right.
So a couple of thoughts. One is we actually, in the next month, and I'm happy to share this back with y'all in whatever format is useful, we are actually releasing what's called our practical canopy analysis. And it looks at where there are opportunities and for how much a canopy expansion. It has some limits, like it's a model, it's not perfect, but we can certainly share that. So you have a sense of like, it's a little bit more about like orders of magnitude than numbers, but it will give you a sense. It also breaks things down because different communities, to your point, have different dynamics. Some have more room in the public realm. Some you might need to actually really work hard to engage private property owners, right? Like there's not a one size fits all solution, but I want to mention a really important resource here. And I'll name that Gowanus Canal Conservancy in the Gowanus neighborhood has used this tool very effectively. So the State Department of Environmental Conservation has their urban and community forest grant program. And I'm only slowing down because I want y'all to be able to not have to keep pace with my fast talking. That grant program, one can apply as an institution and then receive funding to do a few things. One is to conduct an inventory of your existing trees and opportunities. 2 is then to create a management plan. And then 3 is to implement it, and so on and so forth. So if you are representing a neighborhood where you think some local planning would be in order, I would really encourage you to take a look at that grant program. I'm not sure that it's open right now. Like I think it opens, annually, and I'm not sure the cycle is open, but it's a really terrific way to get some resources to even like hire like a firm that is like a specialist in this who has that technical knowledge to help you. And again, it's not going to solve all the problems at once, but it will take you through a stepwise approach to really planning for your own community. And we really believe that while we want this big citywide goal, this is a lot about local leadership and self-determination, and communities need to be really engaged. So I appreciate that spirit. And I'll also bring your idea of the online tool back to my team as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll go to Roberta Samara next, but I also, Emily, would ask that you also after Roberta's question, if you could possibly spend just a minute talking and addressing Edward Amador's question in the chat, that would be great too.
No problem.
Thank you. Go ahead, Roberta.
Oh, I just wanted, this is great. And we've been working on this for a long time. We're very blessed on the Upper West Side because our council member, Gail Brewer, has started an initiative where residents are asked to survey their trees in their area. And she's conducting a whole survey of trees in her council district. But we also have someone who created something called Love Our Tree Day, which gets people to take care of their particular tree. And our bids have been very good about looking at the trees, but the northern section of CB7 needs more attention, more love. So maybe we can try and replicate Love Your Tree group north of that.
Yeah.
But having any tool that you can give us where we, and I think Gail can give you her information if you're going to create a tool so we can follow along our trees. I think, it's a way of really engaging people to know that the trees on your block are being taken care of.
Yeah, thank you, Roberta. And I'll just say, I don't want to name individual names, but I will in this case that Melissa Elstein, who leads Love Your Street Tree Day, she is just a gem and so dedicated. And she actually is a member of Forest for All NYC. Right. And, I think one really terrific step would actually potentially be to try to sit down with Melissa, knowing that she has limited capacity, but see if there are some other like local block associations in that northern section of your district. And perhaps Melissa would be willing to do some mentoring with them. Or if Melissa didn't have bandwidth, we could think about finding some others from Forest for All NYC see. A great thing to do would be if there are block associations or other like local representative organizations. If you all know an organization called Trees New York, that's the organization that is actually licensed to certify citizen pruners. So I'm a citizen pruner. I literally have a card. I can water my trees on my block. I can go out and trim them. Giving people that little bit of knowledge, it's a fun training, can really be empowering so folks know they can engage. So I think there are a lot of ways that we could try to connect you to the right folks. So I would just say, Roberta, like, please reach out to me directly and I can try to facilitate some of those connections if it's at all helpful. And I love that, like making sure there's equity within your own district, right? Like some of our districts don't have equity within them. So that's a great approach. And so I just do want to come to Eddie's question. Yes, that is a big question about how do we ensure there's guards on all tree beds? So here's an unfortunate reality. Right now, the city doesn't budget for that, even though we know they help. So one thing I'll say is it's city budget season. Please don't let up. Negotiations are not over. Please let the city know that we need to be fully funding this asset, right? This $5.7 billion asset is infrastructure and it needs protection. I think it's going to be a bit of a long road to get to the level of resource where the city is fully funding that. I actually believe we can get there with time. So I would encourage you to do that. In the interim, some different ideas, and I'm sure you've exhausted a lot of different, approaches, but participatory budgeting is a great approach. Sometimes co-op and condo associations are willing to come together. IOB.org is a crowdsource fundraising platform for local environmental initiatives. You can also try that. So there are an array of different options, but I'll just say that, my belief is that this is a public asset and that we should be protecting it with public dollars. So I think there is a long road to get there. And Eddie, I'd be very pleased to speak with you, offline about generating more ideas if that's helpful.
Thank you so much again, Emily, for this presentation. I echo everything everybody has already said and look forward to hearing more from you and partnering with you in the future. So thank you again. And I'll just look for you to send us the presentation. I'll be happy to send it out to the entire borough board.
Thank you so much for having me, y'all. Good luck with your meeting. And thank you for everything you're doing for your districts and for the city. So take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, we're going to move on to our chair's report. Just before we do, I just wanted to mention that I know that this meeting was moved up because we had originally thought that this is going to be the last few days of virtual. And so we wanted to do so now. The next meeting for Borough Board will actually be moved back a week to July 28th. That is because we need to have 60 days pass before we can redo our bylaws. Or at least open up our bylaws and vote on anything with bylaws. So we will send you multiple reminders of that, but just please note that the next meeting of Borough Board will be July 28th. I also wanted to just mention that unfortunately, I will not be here for that meeting. I am, you probably can't see this, but I am 8 months pregnant right now and will hopefully not be 8 months pregnant on July 28th. So please be kind to Eric, who's going to be running the show. We'll give you more information, but it's going to be a larger gap in between our time there. So just wanted to make sure that everybody marks their calendars for July 28th. Please also try to be there. It's been difficult for us to, try to find quorum and try to get that. And we do think that some of the bylaws changes that we're going to be making will be, able to help facilitate our meetings and make it easier for the work of Borough Board to be done. I also just wanted to give a shout out to members of the team who've been here. Adele Bartlett, who you all know because we ask her questions literally every single day, truly every day. So thank you, Adele Bartlett from General Counsel. Thank you to our incredible Deputy Borough President, Keisha Sutton James, for always being here and listening in. Thank you to Dawn, Brian, Porfirio, Mina Harris was on earlier, all of our kind of staff here who Andrew, Brian as well. Sorry, Brian and Andrew, I totally missed you there for a second, but we have a really great team on our calls, always kind of following up, and they'll be continuing to be here in my absence, but I'll see you all back in the fall. So just wanted to give you a heads up. Please come to the July 28th meeting. I want to get those bylaws done. And be kind to the rest of the team, which I know you will be, in my absence. So with that, I just want to then move on to, I think that's the only other updates that we have for you. But I wanted to go to CB6 for any updates.
Well, that was out of order. It surprised me. Congratulations, Trisha. No, that's
Thank
fine. Congratulations. So we haven't had a meeting yet, so I have brief comments in Kyle's stead since he was unable to attend today. Community Board 6 did recently hold a public hearing on the open meetings law, which focused on the procedures for hybrid meetings that was set forth through the recent state budget approval process. In our last executive committee meeting, we did pass a resolution that codified the procedures set forth in the approved state process. So our board wanted to have the option to conduct hybrid meetings instead of just in-person meetings as we move forward through the changing public health situation. The first resolution was also accompanied by a second resolution where the executive committee adopted a resolution from a previously passed one from the fall of 2021, I believe, urging the New York State Legislature to allow for a completely virtual option for board members to participate in order to, really maximize participation, transparency, and accessibility for our deliberations. Our board strongly believes that every public body should have the ability to self-determine a model that works best for them. Both of these resolutions were passed unanimously at the executive committee and are going to our board meeting next week. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll go to Roberta Samir next from CB7.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thanks, Roberta.
Your life will be totally changed. Hopefully for the good, right? Steve sent me what his report was. So we're in the process of, we had a public hearing on the West Park Presbyterian Church at 165 West 86th Street. We're voting on the application of the Landmark Preservation Commission to, he says to demolish. It's not, it's to delist it so that it's, they're asking for a hardship. If they get the hardship, they're going to sell the building and the building will be destroyed. The committee did not support the application and the full vote will be next week. The senior task force, we're happy to announce we don't have the flyer yet, but we will have it this month. We're having 3 forums, virtual forums in July, 3 Wednesdays in a row on how to get into housing, into affordable housing for seniors, how to maintain housing once you're in the housing will be the second one. And the third session will be how to thrive in the house. And we have different organizations and legal groups who will be working on these. On the office, we've just voted Tuesday night to promote our longtime staff member, Jessie Bevis, is promoted to Associate Director of Community Affairs. She is dedicated hard work to the community board and has really stepped up in the last 5 or 6 months to do a yeoman's job. We're having a new hire, which is Ashley Antonia Lopez as the new social media and communications coordinator. Ashley has a master's degree in social media and a background in social media and tech, which we hope will modernize the office. So we're very excited about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Roberta, and congratulations on the new hires. That's very exciting.
Yeah, we're very excited.
We'll go next to CB8. And I know that, Russell, if you're available. Yep, go ahead.
So not much has changed since the last Borough board meeting. We haven't had a full board meeting since then, but I will just let everybody know we have our art show coming up on June 11th. So hope as many people can join us for that as possible. It's June 11th, 91st Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So really hope to see you there. And that's all.
Great. Thanks, Russell. And I know that Russell may have to leave. So when he does, Eric, if you could please upgrade Rami Segal.
Really quick, we did have our meeting last night, so we were able to pass our hybrid resolution. So it was a very long debate about it. So it was quite contentious there, but we were able to go ahead and get that through. But thank you, Adele, the whole Borough President's team for giving us guidance on that. And it's great to hear that we can require masks, because I think that was a really big question for folks. And then I'd also just like to thank the Borough President's Office, Councilwoman Jordan. We were able to call a last minute informational meeting about our project. That was on 145. It was a 145 project. There had been some modifications to that proposal that the community was not aware of. It was currently in front of the city council. So of course we played our part in the PULA process very early. But there is not, as all of you all know, there is not any provisions that allow or require the community to be updated with any modifications to a proposal. So we have found out that there were all these modifications that we did not know about. And we were able to call just an emergency informational meeting, just to inform the community, not to take a vote, not to give a public opinion from the board, but just so the community could be aware and give their input. So I'd like to thank the Borough President for, I think we got that together in maybe about 48 hours. We put it out there and we had about 250 people join us. And just to hear and to voice their opinion about the project. Borough President, I'd like to thank Deputy Borough President Keisha Sutton James, Mina White for being there, Councilwoman Jordan in her office, and also our sister board, CB9, Barry Weinberg. He came in and gave us some great information and shared and supported us in our information session. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Cicely. And congratulations on that last minute meeting. You guys did pull it off really, really well. So we'll go next to CB11.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the patience of being off camera. I'm just, as I texted Trisha, I'm at PT for my back, so I'm just stepping away. So yeah, we had our executive committee meeting and we voted a full board. And it was a very thoroughly discussed with hybrid meetings. A lot of the same concerns we shared at Borough Board last month were expressed. I think we're going to have some challenges, and I think we'll have an easier time accomplishing quorum with our committee levels in our actual our CB11 office. So that was one issue that, but we did pass it, and we're proceeding forward. We're very thankful that the EO was extended through almost the end of the month. Handful of items to discuss. I attended the 125th Street bid. We discussed a lot of the budgetary issues. There are a lot of fiscal gaps that need to be restored. Dealing with issues such as the homeless population, drug use population, they're able to bag a lot of the refuse, but then within, usually anywhere from half an hour or whatnot, the bags have gone through and they're back out on the street. So there's a lot of discussion there. That extends all the way through the corridor of 125th Street. But again, they're having an uptick in issues such as human excrement on the sidewalks, needle refuse. So then also too, I attended the groundbreaking of the flood prevention wall in Metropolitan Hospital. That, as everyone recalls, when Hurricane Sandy left damage to crucial systems in the hospital, many of the ICUs, if you may recall, were relocated. And as you know, 30 seconds can mean the difference between life or death, but it was good to come together and celebrate that funding. We're dealing with some, we had our orientation for our new members. And again, I cannot express enough the training series that the VP's office is putting on. I think it dovetails beautifully with what we're doing. That was on May 31st. We held that. A lot of new members, they're already speaking up and raising their hands, following protocol, which we love, and asking a lot of inquisitive questions about Robert's Rules of Order, which, as those who have a penchant for being parliamentarians know, it's really great to see that investment in energy from our new membership. We look forward to assigning them to committees coming up after the summer. And I will be joining Councilmember Menem for the rally later this morning. So these are just a handful of the items. We also have our open street starting actually live this weekend on 101st and Lexington. We invite you to come out. A lot of festivals happening with the Puerto Rican Day Parade coming up the subsequent weekend. And so we just look forward to seeing everyone kind of return to some semblance of normal. So that concludes my report, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next Borough Board.
Thanks, Xavier. Next, we'll go to CB1.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. This week, I attended the 9/11 Memorial Museum Museum and Park 20th anniversary of the ending of the recovery period. It was a very moving ceremony on Monday, Memorial Day, and reinforces the highlight for me for 20 years, how far we've come since that point in time. So it's, certainly a thank you to everybody who contributed to the rebounding for Lower Manhattan. It goes well beyond the recovery, but to the people who lived here, people who worked here, the students, and a thank you to our council member for pushing forward to try and get the DOE to not only retain, but share names and records so that students who are getting sick, who are in the local schools, and the families have a way to prove that they were here, because they were too little to have their own documentation, and some of them don't have family members who are still here. So we appreciate all of that. It was a really moving day. We also sent a letter to the head of the museum asking that the park, which is now run by the not-for-profit, be able to have longer opening hours, because, for example, you cannot cross through or go to the pools in the evening. It's very short. It's tied to their budget, to their operating hours for the museum. And we hope that there's a way that there can be some kind of partnership with some of the city and state agencies involved with the campus to be able to make that really more like the Washington Mall than a security zone, where we can find some kind of balance as a city to have access for people who would like to be there, even during rush hour, quite frankly, to be able to take a moment of peace. I would like to encourage everyone, if you are interested in resiliency plans, the Southern Battery Park City Resiliency Environmental Impact Statement has been released. They actually extended the comment period to June 10th. It goes all over from the north part of the Battery, from basically at the bottom of Broadway, all the way around Lower Manhattan to the Jewish Heritage Museum. It's a lot of information. I'm happy to share back with Tricia and the team the links so you could do it. Open comment is June 10th. Thank you to the borough president for signing on to the letter with Councilmember Marte, looking for an independent environmental monitor for the Manhattan Detention Center, the mega jail. We are still hoping in Lower Manhattan that with Councilmember Marte and Levine's support, we can be looking at project alternatives, and a public hearing would be set up, and we don't end up with the largest mega jail in the world in Lower Manhattan as a symbol. We still are also very grateful for the independent monitor that we have at 250 Water Street for the Brownfield cleanup site. It has shown us that when you are in a dense environment with historic streets that are very tiny, with schools and families next door, you absolutely need an independent monitor, hands down. I want to note that there's been a funky thing with the redistricting, which doesn't technically come to us, but Governor's Island, Ellis Island, and Liberty Island, which fall under the purview of Manhattan for all city council and everything in the city agency, is now for some reason on a state level in Brooklyn. So that's a funky thing that we did send a letter to the administrative oversight, but they ignored that. So we're hoping maybe that there's some way to fix that, because it certainly doesn't seem to provide much symmetry. And we continue to watch for Trinity School. We're really excited. They move into their location for the fall, so I should have more updates by July for the next borough board, and hoping that the Department of Transportation and the School Construction Authority and the team at Trinity School can come to some consensus to ensure that part of the narrow street that's in front of the school is able to be closed so the kids do not get hit by traffic exiting the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. So we are looking forward to hearing an update on that. and also to see what kind of symmetry the Harbor School can have to finally make a school that is designed for marine science to have a properly sized swimming pool and gym for the high school students, not an elementary school size pool that's designed for 5-year-olds, but a pool that is designed for 15 to 18-year-olds. And Trisha, I think when you have your beautiful little baby, you will know exactly what I mean about a tiny pool versus a normal size pool for the adult size people that are there. So that will take a little bit more coordination between the SCA, potentially the feds because they have land on Governor's Island, the trust and the school and the community board. And we are fully looking forward to those discussions. On that, I end my Borough Board report. I want to say thank you very, very much, Trisha, for all of your hard work and your responsiveness. On Zoom, you don't see the people below here, so we would not know. And I know probably a baby pool for dates is not allowed on chairs, but I do think we should try one, or maybe a name, something fun.
You're very sweet, but I'll just tell you it's July 11th. We're being induced, so it's easy. So
Congratulations.
It'll be a fast baby pool. Thank you.
It's the best worst job you'll ever have. It's awesome.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Janine.
Hi, good morning. Just quick update on Community Board 2. We are thrilled that we are virtual through the end of June, essentially. I think it'd be just great if open meeting laws followed a 30-day, 31-day month calendar. It would make things a lot easier. I would love for other board members, other boards that have passed resolutions on how you handle virtual meetings. We're still dealing with, how do we adequately, call on people who are physically in person versus virtual. How do we, I got my first, email, somebody's traveling this month. I won't be able to make a full board meeting. Thankfully, in the past, they just wouldn't attend, and now they can attend virtually. But who do you, how do you prioritize who gets those virtual spots? So we've got lots of work to do. On local issues, we continue to get new bike lanes. We had some installed just 2 days ago on West 3rd Street in Central Village. A shelter, our safe haven, is opening on 14th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. It's opening in August. And for community board members who work on schools and parks and other lots of long-term issues, things eventually at the East 4th Street Water Tunnel Park, which was first acquired by the city in 2001, so 21 years ago, opened last week, as did the Grand Lafayette Water Tunnel Park, which was an 18-year process. So when you're working on stuff, just remember these things eventually do happen. Both of these projects started well before I joined Community Board 2. So we're thrilled that they're happening. And I just, on the personnel front, many have heard CB2's district manager, Bob Gormley, is going to be retiring July 1. And our assistant district manager, Josh, will be leaving in mid-June to join the Union Square bid. So we're going to have a lot of change on our staff of 4. I'll be reaching out to CB7, and we formed a personnel committee and done all that work. So we'll be going through a transition period in our board office. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Janine. And if we can provide any sort of support for that transition, just keep us posted. I know that that's a lot to handle in one summer. And I actually think CB8 did something similar a couple years ago where they lost both their EDM and their DM at the same time. It's not easy. So just keep us posted if we can support.
Thank you.
And then we'll go to Paul.
Good morning, everyone. Long time no see. It's only been about 2 weeks. We did have full board in between, and we did also pass the resolution. Sorry for all the noise outside my apartment right now. We did pass the resolution on the hybrid meeting. It was also contentious. There was a lot of questions, a lot of similar questions I had at our previous board meeting, and I'm still concerned about the quorum requirement and show people who can show up face to face. So it's still a bit of a concern, but we did pass that resolution. And something I mentioned last time, it's actually tonight. We're having our forum on serving and supporting our families and youth experiencing homelessness. That is tonight at 6:30. It's being hosted by our Human Services Committee. So I can definitely send the link So Tricia, who can share with everybody if anybody's interested. There's be a number of nonprofits represented speaking on it tonight. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Paul. Alrighty, folks, this is a short one today, I believe, but that's not totally surprising since it hasn't been so long since we've all seen each other before. Just again, a reminder that July 28th will be the next Borough Board meeting, so we won't see you for a few weeks, but obviously just keep us posted. If there's anything that comes up, we'll let you know about it. And thank you all for doing your hard work on the open meetings resolutions. We know that those are tough conversations, and if you need any sort of support or extra guidance from us, just keep us posted. Just let us know. Otherwise, we'll let you know if we hear anything more about any sort of extensions of the emergency orders on the city or state side, as we have always done and will continue to do. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Great. Have a wonderful rest of your month. Thank
Happy
you all.
Pride Month.
Happy Pride. And happy early